What's going on, guys? Welcome to the David F Haas podcast. I'm in the studio today with my new friend, Ali K, world famous techno DJ. It's actually interesting because my wife is a tattoo artist, and she's always bringing all these interesting people in to get tattooed, and then I always steal them as podcast guests. But she actually wants to start creating a podcast with all these interesting people, so I'm just taking her idea. But anyways, I'm here with Ali K, originally from Windsor.
Yes.
Yeah, now living in Toronto.
Yes.
And as I was talking to her while she was getting tattooed, I was just like, oh, this is like an interesting story, because she kind of followed her dreams of becoming a techno DJ, and I was like, oh, that would be a great story for the podcast. So I invited you, and you graciously
Here I am.
Yeah, here you are. So yeah, thanks for coming on. I think it's going to be an interesting conversation.
Yeah, definitely. I'm really excited to do this. I don't get to do this very often.
Yeah,
so.
Right on. Good. So, like, first of all, like, because a lot of what you're doing is like on Twitch.
Yes.
Right. And so because I'm old, I'm like, I don't even know what Twitch is. So like, maybe like kind of like just tell us a little bit about what that whole thing looks like.
Yeah.
And then we'll kind of get into like how you got into this whole DJing thing.
Sure. Yeah. Well, Twitch was kind of the gateway for me getting into doing this more as a career and professionally. Believe it or not, because it is a little bit. It's a gaming platform, so it's for like Fortnite, if you know, like, I know those are big games right now. That's like what a lot of people go on. They watch other gamers game. They're very community driven, so you have like a lot of regular chatters and things like that. So it's a very community based platform, but ultimately the percentage is, I would say, 98% gamers.
Okay.
And during COVID, a lot of musicians didn't have anywhere to stream, and Facebook was having copywritten issues as well as Instagram, so a lot of people made their way over to Twitch. And I ended up on there a year after kind of COVID happened, so I was a little late to the party, but I had a bunch of friends that were doing it, and we're making decent money, and we're having fun because you get to play whatever you want, which is different. When you're playing a certain club or in a certain city or whatever, you need to understand, the age group of the people that are coming out, what they're looking for. On Twitch, it was kind of the first time where you got to do whatever you want. As a DJ, that's the most beautiful thing, is you get to do whatever you want. You don't have to worry about who's playing after you or what the club is. So I had a lot of friends that just started DJing on there and getting all light setups and nice cameras, and so I've been doing that as kind of I call it my day job. I stream 3 times a week on there, and it'll be 3 years next month.
No way.
Yeah.
3 years. Wow, that's crazy. So how does someone make money on a platform like Twitch?
Yeah, it's all basically tip-based.
Okay.
So it can be kind of all over the place. You never really know what you're going to make, or which can be scary as well. So there's subscriptions, there's something called bits. It's kind of a whole new world. It's difficult when a lot of people come on Twitch, especially friends of mine that want to support. They're like, this is so confusing. And it can definitely be. There's we have our own little emojis and everything. But ultimately, there's 3 ways to make money. There's subscriptions, which creators will get 50% of that. Twitch will take the other 50%. They did just implement a new program that only went out to less than 1,000 creators in the world, and I was actually able to get it.
Oh, wow.
So now I have a 70-30 split, which is really lovely.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Because most of the money is from subscriptions.
Okay.
And then there's something called bits, which is just Twitch money. We get 100% of it, but the person pays more to buy them.
Okay. Yep.
So $1 is $1.40. I get the full $1, but they're paying $1.40 for it, for example. And then the last way is just PayPal direct tips, which I believe it's 98%. So that's definitely the best way to get support from your viewers or fans, whatever you call them, is for people to direct tip. And then that doesn't go through Twitch.
Okay. So paint me a picture then. So I'm at this, tell me if I got this right. I'm at home.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I want to listen to some good music.
Yeah.
I go onto Twitch, I find you on Twitch, and then I'm just listening to your music. And because I'm enjoying it so much, I give you some money or subscribe to your channel. And then there's a subscription fee to be a part of the Ali K
Yeah,
channel.
but you can watch for free. Like you can
Right.
chat for free. You just need to make an account. And I have a lot of people that have been watching me for 3 years for free.
Right.
And that's
It's almost like what do they call that? What is the name of that thing where they like people on YouTube have like a separate account?
yeah,
What is the name of it? I can't think of the name of it anyways, but where it's like a Patreon.
Patreon. Yeah. There are actually a lot of Twitch creators that have Patreons as well.
Right.
For other things. And I might be getting into a little bit of that because there's a few other projects I want to get on, and you need to like figure out how to monetize it, and Patreon's really good for that.
Right.
So that is an option, and a lot of people have that as well. But if I wanted to, like, I would just be doing music on Patreon if I just wanted to like do it for money,
Sure,
like I said, there's lots of people that have been watching me for 3 years who contribute in so many other ways. They're just like a great presence to have. They are always, like active in the chat, which is really nice because then I'm not like I'm alone. I'm DJing in my living room.
Right.
I'm facing a wall. And that was a really hard thing for me to get past when I first started because I'm very energy driven. Like I love DJing is very an energy exchange as well. Like if the crowd is zombies and they're not really liking it, like I'm not going to be like going crazy, it's very much an energy exchange. So Twitch is kind of the same, and you get that from chat, which I know sounds so weird, but there's all little emojis and like things that, funny things and inside jokes, and
Yeah. Like,
it's a whole other world.
it's just wild to like the ability to like, follow your dreams and like pursue your passion and then also earn a living, doing it now. It's like, to me, it's like so foreign what you're talking about. It's like I would just, because I'm just, obviously I'm not into techno, and it's just like, I can imagine kind of like being at home, watching a stream and like, I don't know what people are doing. They're just listening.
A lot of people are working. A lot of people are like listening. And that's why like it has changed a lot since COVID. There isn't as many people on there anymore. And it's different, but it's very community driven. Like I guess the difference with Twitch is like I have a microphone and I'm talking quite a bit. Sometimes I'm super talkative. Sometimes I'm not. I'm always sharing like how my past shows went or other cities that I was traveling to for shows or people that I've met, or I love sharing those things because I don't get to often.
Right.
And like I said, even doing this, like you can go and see me play as many times as you want in whatever city, but I don't actually get to like sit down and talk to people much.
Right.
So Twitch is very much that for me as well. I'm very like myself on it. I'm very open, and like I get a community that knows me on another level.
Yeah, it's just so interesting to me, like like what's actually possible these days. But so how did you like get into the whole techno music? Because there's techno and there's EDM and there's so like
everyone like EDM like technically is electronic dance music, right? So that would engulf all music that is made electronically. But there is kind of another definition for EDM, which is considered the more commercial mainstream stuff as well.
Okay.
So it kind of has two definitions, which gets confusing. And then techno, a lot of people like to just call everything electronic techno, which isn't necessarily the case. Techno was born in Detroit, which is kind of where this all came from, and the inspiration from Windsor. Windsor actually was a huge rave scene. A lot of people from Windsor and Detroit, and one of the biggest techno DJs in the world, Richie Houghton, is actually from LaSalle.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, so he still tours and he's killing it. And arguably, if you asked anyone who understood techno, like he is one of the kings for sure.
Yeah.
And he started all of this with the people that created techno in Detroit. So there's a huge influence in Windsor, although we don't see it much anymore. I got into it because I was working downtown. That was kind of just one of the first jobs I had, bartending.
Right.
And Revival.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So shout out Remo and Ronaldo, Augustino brothers.
Yeah.
They were booking some house music DJs from Toronto occasionally. And I was bartending and hosting, and I kind of just got to like meet some people. and I really enjoyed it. And I had a few friends that started DJing, and it just kind of like took off from there. I was actually sending a lot of DJs like songs, and I was like, you should do this or do that. And people saw that I had a lot of knowledge, and I don't think I even really knew that. Like, it was just from being around it, like in the clubs and getting to meet certain people. And a really good friend of mine as well, Ian Hind, who quite active in the downtown Windsor scene. He does all the big music events and everything.
Okay.
He's actually a good friend of Richie Houghton's. And when I met him quite young, he was like, you're coming to Detroit. You're coming to like experience the good music and everything. So he was also a big gateway for me understanding this. And Ramon Ronaldo, they used to DJ and do all this. So I just had a lot of people that knew stuff that were kind of my first interaction as like a 19-year-old into the scene. So I became surrounded by it, and friends were like, why don't you just learn? Like, you have the knowledge, you know some people, you know, you have some connections. And I was like, no, I don't want to. And then I ended up meeting someone who had DJ gear and was teaching someone else. And I just ended up going, and I learned, and it was pretty easy for me.
Yeah.
I have a dance background. I was a classically trained dancer for most of my life, so I understand music very well. And I'm always counting music, and I understand the phrasing of it. And I don't have like a big musical theory background, but my whole life has been music.
Yeah.
So when I kind of learned what buttons to press, it was kind of game over for me. Like, I already understood the music. I understood like phrasing. I understood counting. I could hear if music wasn't on beat, which is a big thing for DJs when they're just starting out, is they can't really hear that. You have to train your ear. So I don't know. I think I had a little bit of a head start from that whole world of mine, the dance world.
Yeah.
And then being surrounded by so many people, it just...
Yeah, you took dance with my cousin's
Yes.
dance bar.
Yeah,
Like,
dance
what's
bar.
that? It's actually wild, the connections that we have, because like Revival is right across the street from Treehouse.
Yep.
I know Ramon Ronaldo really well.
Yeah.
And then you're dancing with my cousin's place there.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's wild that we ended up just getting hooked up and having this conversation. It's funny how many people I have on this podcast that it's like there's so many like synchronicities, and I believe there's no such thing as coincidences. And then even as we're chatting here before, it's like we're getting into conversations that are really aligned with the messaging that I have here. And like what drew me to your story was like someone that just followed their passion and found what they liked, and then found a way to turn it into something that you could do for a living, which I don't think everyone has to do that, but it's just so interesting to like, once you really step into the field of doing whatever it is that you want to do, then the opportunities come, and
I didn't mean for any of it to happen. Like, I had like 3 other friends of mine were streaming on Twitch during COVID, and they were like, well, what else are we supposed to do? Like, life kind of stopped, and I was living in Toronto, and my relationship had ended and my lease had ended, and I was like, I'm just gonna come home. And I came to Windsor, and I moved into an apartment with no job and no money. Shout out to that landlord who gave me a chance. And they were like, just DJ on Twitch, just do it. And I was like, nah, didn't even want to. But nobody was working. So I kind of got on at like a perfect time. You had like some government funding. So I had like a little bit of financial backing with that. And I told my mom, I've never really asked my family much for help. And I kind of said to my mom, I was like, look, like, I think I could do this. I think I could stream. I didn't think at a professional level. Like, now I'm playing clubs and festivals across North America. And it started from me DJing in my living room, and still is me DJing in my living room. Like, but going back, those friends that were just like, oh, you can make good money, and didn't think much of it. And I didn't expect for this to be a career at all.
Yeah,
I
but
always,
even though you say that, though, it's like you did like just step into it. Like,
there was a moment, and that's what I mean when I asked my mom. I was like, will you help me? Like, if I needed help, if I needed financial help, like, this is like my first time, living on my own, and like I don't know what I'm doing with my life. I just lost like my career. I just lost my relationship and my city in Toronto and came kind of back to Windsor with nothing, like not even furniture. So I was like, where is my life going to go? And I always loved DJing. I had been DJing for like 3 or 4 years at that time, but I hadn't had a gig in 2 years. I was living in Toronto and I had one gig, I think, in the 2.5 years that I had lived there. So it wasn't really on my mind. It wasn't really, but that's why I took that risk and I wanted to pursue it full time on Twitch because I knew that I could.
Right.
But I just never had the opportunity.
Yeah. When you say you only had one gig in Toronto, was that when you were living in Toronto doing a different career though?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like, the point I'm trying to highlight here is like, because we're kind of hearing is like, you're in Toronto, you're DJing and you're having fun and you enjoy it, but you do have a full-time other job.
Yeah.
And so the DJing is kind of like the secondary. It's your side hustle, whatever you want to call it. And so then that falls apart, all falls apart. You come to Windsor, which is actually interesting because one of the things that's really been coming to me is like sometimes our darkest moments are like the biggest points for like turnaround. And so you lose your job, you lose your relationship, you come home, and then you say, I'm just going to go all in on this DJing thing. And shout out to your mom for saying
I didn't even end up needing help. Like it took off quite well, and I got on at a good time because it was still COVID and there were a lot of people at home looking for places to just community.
Yeah.
Like if you want to listen to just like normal DJ mixes, like you've got SoundCloud, you've got Spotify, you've got Apple Music, but on the other hand, on Twitch, it is very community driven. Like there's a lot of the same people. I have like friends all over the world that I talk to all the time from Twitch that I've never met. And as well with that, there are people that have flown. Like we had a group of like 50 people from all over the world fly into Detroit last May for a festival that we have here called Movement Detroit, which is kind of our own little hub of Europe in North America. And people from all over the world came and we all met. And it was like the coolest thing. That's the second year we've done that. But I had a friend from Denver come and stream with me last weekend.
Amazing.
Yeah. So it's super cool.
Yeah. So it starts from Twitch when you kind of just do this all in. But then now though, you're also DJing live now that the world has turned back on after COVID and you're getting opportunity. You're telling me you're going on like a cruise scene.
Yeah. Yeah. The biggest cruise ship music festival. This will be my third one that I'm playing. It's Miami to Bahamas in a few weeks, the end of January. And that is a crazy experience. It's a marathon. It's like 100 DJs and you're in living quarters with these other artists and like you don't really get to do that very often. So it's a great place to network and make friends. And we have our own artist quarters and everything as well. I mean, like our sleeping arrangements are normal. We can have guests all around us or other artists all around us, but there are areas that we can get away from fans. Right. I'm not at that level, but like Tiesto, who's also playing on this ship with me, I'm sure he'll be hiding away in some artist quarters every once in a while because it can be a lot being around 5,000 people that, are there for you.
Yeah. And so this cruise is like just nonstop music.
96 hours straight of music.
Jeez.
11 stages, but not all 11 stages are open. Right. So you can there's like an after hours where like DJs will play with sunrise in the middle of the ocean. Like it's some of the most magical like experiences I've ever had.
Cool. And you've done this before?
This is my third one.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. So it's like, there's so many opportunities, I think, just arise when you just finally just step into the field and, even Zach here, that's in the, he kind of finally stepped into the field of like becoming a full-time, videographer and opportunities are arising within this. So it's like that leap that I think people need to take. And sometimes in order to take that leap, you need to kind of like hit like not a rock bottom, but like a low point, let's say.
Sure.
Right. And so I think the other thing I found like really interesting about your story is that you kind of do this all like not in the scene with respect to like, because the techno, correct me if I'm wrong, but like the techno music scene is kind of like there's like a lot of heavy drug influence, like
definitely.
I know some friends and this is very like hearsay, but like that were into techno music and they were all into ecstasy was what we were calling it back in the day, MDMA and all these other drugs, and that was just never my thing. You know, alcohol was always the thing that I used because that was kind of my scene, was like the bar scene, and it was like that was like the drinking scene, you know, and techno was kind of like the drug scene, let's call it.
Definitely.
Right? And so you dabbled in that a little bit, but you made a decision at some point that wasn't for you.
Sure, yeah.
Which is similar to my story, which is crazy because I was in the drinking scene and I made a decision that it wasn't for me, although I remained in the scene, but no longer drinking. And so you're doing a very, which is why I say these synchronicities are wild. So you've remained in the DJ scene without, you know, getting into the drugs. What's that been like?
It's difficult for sure. I wouldn't say difficult in the sense of peer pressure or anything. Like, I'm quite confident in where I am in my life and my decision. I wasn't really into the drugs and drinking scene when I was DJing much. It was more when I was just a dancer and I was a partier.
Yeah.
So I was going to a lot of these events and dabbling in whatever was trending in that scene, which is, there's a lot of very, very different drugs and scary. You know, I've seen some scary stuff as well. And it just got to a point where I fell in love with this scene a long time ago because I loved the music and I loved the people. It's a very friendly scene. Like I said, having friends like all over the world and staying in contact with these people. I have people in my phone that are like a club name bathroom girl, you know, that I've just like met one night that like I hit it off with, and they have stayed friends of mine, you know. It's one of those industries where everyone is incredibly friendly and willing to help out if anyone needs. But that's why I fell in love with it. And I was surrounded by a lot of drugs, and I definitely got caught in that for a while and just hit a wall and had a reminder that I started this because I loved it. And
Right.
I didn't need, when I first started going out, I wasn't on drugs. So, you know, I enjoyed the music then. So why can I not enjoy it now? And it wasn't that I couldn't enjoy it, is that I didn't know. I didn't even try to enjoy it sober.
Right.
You know, and a lot of these drugs are everywhere. Like they're in every club, they're in every friend of yours pockets, you know, like it's very common to find. Like, it's not like you'd be searching for drugs. Like it really is everywhere. So it was just easy and it was convenient and it was there. So I had no questions about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I hit a wall and was just like, I don't want to do this anymore. And now I have played every show of mine on a professional level in the last 3 years, completely sober. Few occasions I've had a glass of wine at dinner before, but that's to the extent of the intoxication that I will get.
Yeah.
It is really difficult for the late nights.
Yeah.
The industry that I'm in, it's not like a 2 a.m. last call. Sometimes it's 4 a.m. last call. Sometimes the music goes till 8 a.m., 10 a.m. Like, I'm playing on New Year's Day from 8 till 10 a.m.
That's crazy.
And a lot of those artists will be up all night before that. I don't know yet. We'll see. I might take a nap before. Sometimes the adrenaline is enough for me. Like, It really is a high. And from my dance background, I really loved performing. And I lost that when I stopped dancing. And I get that like adrenaline rush and I feel at home again when I'm performing DJing. So it was something that I grew up with. And I don't know, if I don't want to say chase the high because that feels very drug related, but it's chasing the sober high for me. And that's the only high I need. That adrenaline rush playing, and after just coming off, like knowing the amount of hard work that I put into it is enough for me.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing that people get wrapped up with in drugs and why it's so addictive. It's not so much that the substance is addictive, although of course cocaine and these things are addictive, but it's the feeling that you have from the drug. But like those feelings exist, you know.
They're just heightened.
Yeah, like they exist for us to tap into without the drug.
Sure,
you know,
absolutely.
and that was one of the things for me with alcohol was that the only way I could have fun was with alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I stopped drinking alcohol, I had to start tuning into how I could have fun without it.
Yeah.
And And what I recognized was that, for me, and this maybe is probably similar to your story, was that when I was a kid, I didn't have any alcohol, and I was always having fun, like I was dancing around, jumping around, like I had tons of energy. And then slowly, things happen to you, and you get closed off, you get shut down. And the only way that I could get out of that shell was through alcohol. So part of me was learning how to like figure out what the shell was so that I could let it all go and then be my true self again, which was alcohol was allowing me to be. So I think one of the things that you might have had as an advantage though was that you had this dance background where, a lot of people like dancing, for example, like would be like one of their biggest fears. Like if you told someone you have to dance sober, right, they'd be like, no way. But you had that where you could just do that because you were dancing sober your whole young life.
And I was used to a crowd of people staring you down,
right?
And I actually enjoyed doing speeches and stuff in grade school that like every child hated. I was like the one unique kid that liked it just because, I don't know, I just had a different, not like I became a different person, but it was just a different feeling that I never really got anywhere else. So I just feel at home and I feel so comfortable. Like I'm nervous. Every show I'm nervous before I go on, and it takes a little bit. And once I'm in the zone, like I don't even think. It's very and like an out of body experience. Like a lot of times I'm not even thinking about what I'm doing. I'm just going with the vibe. I'm dancing. I'll have friends that were like, oh, I was dancing next to you the whole time. I'm like, I didn't see anybody.
Yeah.
Like I'm in a tunnel, it's really cool and it's almost difficult to explain, but.
Well, I think this is like spiritual stuff, like is like the peace and that exists in the present moment. And so, a lot of times like people go into deep meditations where they feel like they have that exact same description. It's like they feel like they're not even there. They're not even body and mind. They're just completely in the zone. Or athletes will talk about that of like being in the zone. And so, I can see why that would be a high, because if you really tune into that zone, it's like the second you start thinking that you're in the zone, you step out of it, right?
Yeah.
And so like I think what you're experiencing is like that present moment ecstasy.
Yeah.
And so that's what I was saying. Like this is available without the drugs. But do you feel like, because I had to like carve my own path when I stopped drinking, because when I was drinking, I was hanging out with other bar owners around Ronaldo. I'd go see them and we'd have shots. Jägermeister, they used to do a ton of Jägermeister. Oh, God, stuff.
I used to wash my legs. I'd get home from the bar and I would just wash my legs because it would just be Jaeger all over.
Oh yeah. I remember I was like classic for, because like a lot of the guys, those bar guys, they could drink like so much, and I was never like a shot guy until bombs came around. When vodka bombs
ruined everything.
Oh yeah, like
in like a good and bad way.
Yeah. That also extended the party. It was like later because you're freaking all revved up on Red Bull.
Yeah.
But there's a funny story.
Revved up.
Yeah, revved up
Revival.
on revival. Yeah. And so it's a funny story. I was hanging out with all these big drinkers, and I'm like, they were all doing shots. So I was at Revival, and Remo and Ronaldo were giving us shots, and I was pretending to do the shot, but putting it down like on the bar, like behind like one of the pillars on the bar.
Yeah.
And like just tricking everybody. And then all of a sudden, one of the guys, Remo or Ronaldo, I can't remember who it was like, "What the hell, Dave?
Yeah.
You're not doing any of these shots." And I was like, I can't hang with you guys at this level, because that was the thing. But anyways, when I made the decision to stop drinking, I had to like, I was almost like, not that I wasn't social anymore, but there was an element of I wasn't staying out late anymore.
Yeah.
I wasn't hanging out after. Like we used to hang out at Trios until freaking 5 a.m, and I just wasn't doing that anymore. But it was because I had aligned myself with like a mission, and I had gotten connected to who it was that I wanted to become. And I recognized that in that version of who I wanted to become, I had to let go of like the old me. And in letting go of the old me, that was like letting go of relationships and social settings and social circles. And so there was moments where I felt like I was being left out or whatever. But I guess what kept me going was like the guiding light of like, for me at that time was like success. Is like, I just knew that I couldn't be successful. For me personally, there's other people I'm sure that can get drunk every night and be successful. Probably very few, but I'm saying for me, I knew I couldn't do it anymore. Yeah. And so because of that, like a lot of relationships and whatever, and I kind of was like a standalone downtown Windsor. Like I was like the guy that was kind of like out of like the crowd, which is I think one of the reasons for my success because it gave me a great advantage. I think you're kind of in that realm a little bit as well. You're like the drug dealer that doesn't do drugs. Kind of thing. Yeah. And so, but do you find though that there is this element of not being in the in crowd because
Definitely.
you don't partake in that stuff?
Yeah, I mean, after parties are a really big thing in our industry, and I'm playing a lot of after parties or after hours where they don't even sell alcohol. But I think when I am honest with people, especially maybe people that don't know me, if I play a lot with international artists, so if they come to town, I'm the person that plays before or after them. So I'm either setting up the room, getting them prepared, or when they're done, I'm keeping the night going. So meeting a lot of them, I always am hesitant to share that I am sober. I always have this worry, and I have come across it actually, like people have admitted this, that they're not as willing to invite me out or to after party or to the green room to chat and sit down, which a lot of the times a lot of people are in the green room doing drugs. And because they know I'm sober, if I do share that I'm sober, they won't invite me. And it's not that I can be around it and I can still stay up all night and have those great interactions and be with people. But I think, I don't know, it's just like a preconceived notion that I don't want to interact with them if they're doing drugs, or maybe they think I can't see it, or they just think I can't hang or be fun, or...
Yeah, I also think there's an element, I think, sure, there probably is that element of they think you had a problem and they don't want to, out of like a kindness, they don't want to,
which I respect.
Yeah, right.
Absolutely.
So I think there's a part of that, but I also think the bigger element of it is like when we're getting drunk and we're doing drugs and we're doing all these things, we have this sense of knowing that like this isn't good for us, or like this isn't propelling us towards what it is that we want to become. And so when somebody is here like saying like, hey, this is what life could look like without this, and you're just showing them like what they could be, it's kind of like this crabs in the bucket mentality, meaning like, if someone else is rising up, they want to pull you back down. So it's like, and it's not conscious. Like everybody's doing this unconsciously, right?
Sure.
It's like, you just don't want to feel bad about what you're doing.
Yeah.
And so one way to not feel bad about what you're doing is to get everyone else to do it with you.
Absolutely.
And so if you're this person who is the person that is saying, I'm not going to do that, it makes people uncomfortable.
And which is why I don't always share. Like if I'm with friends or people that I trust or whatnot, I'll definitely share. But it's just a weird element to be a part of. And I don't ever judge. Like I have friends that have tried going out sober and haven't enjoyed the music as much. And it's to each their own. Like we said, it just heightens your senses. And some people need that extra bit. Like maybe there are people that really don't love this industry and my music without the drugs. And I do challenge everybody to try. I love doing that. I love challenging a lot of friends that are into a lot of the drugs to come out once and listen to my music once, or just experience it sober and see how that is. And a lot of times people will do that and be like, wow, like it's like an enlightening experience. They're like, I rely so much. And also too, there's nothing worse. I've been at festivals where people are like, we need to go to this stage. Like it's like you said, like getting taken out of the present moment. Like I go to these festivals now and I can just go to whatever stage I want, see whatever artist I want. I don't have to think about like getting high next or what I'm going to take next. Like it's very much a chase. And a lot of people in the rave scene are like, I'll take this for this and I'll take this for this, like Adderall will keep me up and this will make me feel drunk and this will make me do this. And like, it's very much a chase. It's not like I can just like pop one Molly and be fine. You're like, okay, my high's gone. I need to do another, but I don't have any. So let's go to this stage and find this person that has more. And like, you're taking away from your experience and from being present and just enjoying it. So it's a whole new kind of like interaction to just like be happy in the moment and enjoy and not worry about what's next.
Yeah, you know that, I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but there is like a whole like sober movement like happening, right? You're seeing it more and more. And there's actually a friend of mine she's big time into ecstatic dance, which is like a dance experience, but there's obviously no drug, no substance whatsoever, where you just like, it's like free movement. You do whatever you want. And like one of my biggest like blocks was dancing, which is funny. It's like, because when I was drunk, I could dance all night long.
Yeah.
And when I was a kid at weddings, before I used alcohol, I could dance all night long. But then you start getting judged or whatever, you feel like you're being judged, and then you stop. And so the only time I ever danced was with the use of alcohol. And so, and like, I mean, like, I've been sober for I don't even know how long, 13 years, I think 13 or 14 years, I can't remember. And I still haven't really fully danced.
Yeah.
Right. And so I did a retreat out at Longa Vita there, and Nina was doing a bunch of the yoga and stuff. And she's like, hey, I want to do this ecstatic dance. I said, yeah, let's do it. And so I did that experience with her. And that was the first time like I really just danced, like, and just felt the music.
Let go.
Yeah. And I forgot how great of a dancer I am when I was
like this whole time,
yes.
I haven't been dancing and I'm this good.
Right.
Everyone's been missing out.
Yes. And so like, it was like such a freeing experience to be able to do that. And like, I'm not saying that this is a road that you have to go down, but I'm like, there is a movement towards people like being free from substance. And it's like, you know, you could carve your own path and be like the sober techno DJ. Just imagine that. Yeah.
I mean, I am quite vocal about my experience to a certain extent. Like, I'm not 100% comfortable with sharing everything that I've kind of gone through in the tough times, but I do really like to encourage like a sober lifestyle, or at least, like I said, coming out to a show and trying it sober and just seeing what that experience would be. And there are a few DJs that are sober. I know a few, but a lot of others, like I could say if I'm on a lineup with 5 other artists, like I'm definitely the only sober one. I don't actually know really anyone in my city, to be honest, that does it sober like me.
And the thing is, like, I would think the shelf life of a techno DJ, if they're into the drugs, it's gotta be short. It's like, how long can you keep that life? Like, how do these guys? I don't like. I mean, like these guys. I don't know who does drugs and who doesn't, but it's like the big names. Like, if they're still into drugs, it's like, how are they keeping that up? It's
yeah,
like,
I don't know. I really don't. Like, I've had a very small taste of touring, if you want to call it that, where I've, I played like 2 shows in Calgary and 1 in Vancouver within 24 hours. So I've had little moments of weekends where I've had to fly quite a bit and play quite a few shows. And I could not imagine what that recovery would look like if I was even like 3 drinks in, which for me would probably get me drunk if I had 3 drinks. But anyone, I don't know. I've always wondered that as well, but it definitely isn't healthy. And that's a really big thing that I know I have an advantage of as well. I can commit to doing those things, and I'm flying red-eye to Miami, like knowing that, I'll just hop on the boat and have a nap and be okay, but I'm not going to be having 6 drinks in the Chili's airport, restaurant and showing up wasted and needing to, die for an entire day before I can get going. So
I think it's such an advantage, and especially if you can connect to that present moment, you can move the way you would move on drugs. It's like, I think it's a huge advantage for you. Like I remember like going to Vegas. My buddies and I used to go to Vegas once a year, like group guys trip, and like after those trips, like I would be like out of commission for like a week. Just like, I can't imagine doing this like every weekend like this, because it was just too much. It was too intense. But I think that there's like this advantage that you have of like this, hey, I can do all this without that. You don't have to worry about the red-eye flights. And
I'll stay up longer. I'll be like, you have cocaine or whatever drug makes you stay up. We'll be like, watch, I'll be the last one standing. As if the energy's good, the people are good, the music's good, I will outlast most of the people doing the drugs that keep them up anyways.
And that's actually funny, because my group of buddies too, it's like when we go away, we still do guys trips. They're all still drinking, and I'm the last one standing always.
Yeah.
Right? Because they pass out or whatever, or they get too drunk, and I'm still there. Now, the thing is that's interesting about you as well is that you don't do caffeine either, which is nuts, because I go out, I'll drink Red Bull or something along those lines. It keeps me going, but you just feel the energy, and you're just
Yeah, I kind of just started. I never really liked coffee.
Yep.
And I also just don't really like being reliant on anything. And I think that came from the whole doing drugs back then.
Yeah.
Was I was reliant on having such a great experience because of the drugs. So I don't think that I have an addictive personality. Like, I've always been asked that because of my experiences. I think it's quite the opposite. I think I actually find like addictions like such, like, not like icks. Like, I feel like that's so like rude to say because I don't take addiction lightly at all.
Right.
But I don't want to put myself in that stance of where I'm going to get an addiction.
Yeah.
So I don't drink coffee because I see how it is with people. And I think it's the most socially acceptable addiction in the world. Like, even working, when I worked like, corporate, like, and like I would watch these other employees of mine go and get coffees every day, and they would get 15 minutes off work every day to go get a coffee because they were like miserable. And, it's so normal. But for me, it was always so weird.
But I think like you're tuning into like something which is really important is like anytime we're searching for anything out there,
Yeah.
it becomes a problem. So if you're looking for energy out there, if you're looking for joy or fun or laughter or whatever that may be out there, then that's when it becomes a problem. And so it's like I'm
And
interested.
especially in this world, everything is at your fingertips.
Yes.
You can find and buy and do whatever. Like, you want to laugh, you've got Netflix with a button on your TV to put on whatever brand new movie that just came out. You don't have to go to the theater. Everything is at the touch of our fingers now. So when you find those things that bring, those materialistic things that bring you joy, like you said, you have those already in you. And that's the same thing when we're talking about ecstasy and doing those drugs to have those highs. Like, we have that in us. You used to dance at weddings as a kid, and you used to have so much fun. So when you get older, like, what changes? We already have it within us, but we rely so much on these outer experiences or things or materialistic things to like make us happy or make us comfortable or,
And it never works.
No. I think it does. I think it just masks whatever
Well, I think
it
it
is.
works temporarily, but the thing is, anytime you look for something out there to, let's just say, call it happiness, to bring you happiness, it always has the reverse effect. So yes, you will experience the high, but it is always associated with some sort of low.
Yeah.
Right. So it's even if it's like, even if it's wealth, you might get the high of doing $1 million sale, but then you're going to have the low of the fear that it's not going to happen again. Right. And so like, the thing I'm interested in for you is like, how did you come to that awareness? Like, I know I'm putting you on the spot here, but like,
Yeah.
like you have this moment where you're just see all of that, maybe you've been seeing it your whole life. I don't know. But like, there's, I think for me intuitively, what I'm guessing was when you got involved with the drug scene, something happened in there where you're like, whoa. And like, I need to step back from this.
Yeah. I mean, overdoses are quite common in our industry as well. And, I think seeing some of that, and also just like, I'm really big about listening to my body. And I think that goes back also to like my dance days. Yeah. I pushed myself so much. Like, I was quite a bit behind where I should have been for my age. Like, I really wanted to be a dancer. I forced it. Like, I was quite tall. Like, I didn't really have like a dancer's body. Like, there were a lot of things that just never lined up for me, but I didn't care. Like, I wanted to do it. Like, I was forcing it, and I shouldn't have, and I should have just let it kind of go and enjoyed it, at least the last few years of my dancing career. So I think once I lost all of that and I didn't really feel like I had not a purpose, but an identity. So I went to Walkerville, which is an art school.
Right.
And there's a percentage of people that audition to get into Walkerville. And then there's a percentage of people that are just living around it and go there. And I didn't live anywhere near Walkerville, so I had to audition to get in. And I was a dancer. Like, there was a group of like 6 of us, I believe, and we were the dancers. Like, everyone else that danced also did drama or singing or, they just danced for fun. Like we were the dancers. That was our identity. So I think just making that transition into a regular world, as I had to accept that I wasn't going to become a professional dancer. I knew that all along, but I tried so hard to do it. And I just had to go into the real world and realize that, I don't know, just not to force things.
Yeah.
So maybe when I came into contact with those external elements of happiness, I relied on dance so much for happiness and then lost it. And like I said, that was my identity. I kind of, I guess, lost my identity in a way. And I was like, well, who am I? Right? And then I became a dancer on the dance floor of clubs, and then I guess it just happened that way. And that's how I got into DJing. It's weird and it sounds smooth, but, of course, at the time I was very lost and didn't really know what to do. So yeah, I got into the drinking and the drugs and enjoyed dancing and being free and letting go and just kind of like doing my own thing. And that's, I guess, why I fell in love so much with the rave scene.
Yeah, the thing I'm kind of hearing too is that is like the dancing allowed you to be free, and the music and the drugs and everything allowed you to be free. But then you recognize that it wasn't the drugs, it wasn't the feeling of the drugs you were searching for. It was the feeling of freedom. It came from that, like connecting to your passion and connecting to the music and being able to dance, like. And so then you just somewhere along the lines, and from seeing the things that you saw and whatever your experience, you just said, well, I think I can have that without. Right. And so
absolutely. And I saw the damage that it did on my friends, and I felt the damage on myself. Like I said, I was very aware of my body, and I pushed myself to very far lengths when I was a dancer. Didn't matter how sore I was, I would be getting up the next day. I could barely walk, but then I would dance like normal, and be in so much pain. So I kind of had that again with drugs, was, I was pushing my body so far and waking up and feeling miserable and doing it again. And I guess subconsciously, like, it's funny when you talk about these things now, like it makes sense to me now, but I've never really put it this way. But I'm assuming I can't really go back and think and figure out what I was thinking back then. But I now talking about it and laying it out like this, I pushed my body so much as a dancer and forced something that not that I never truly enjoyed, but I knew wasn't for me. As much as I loved it and I had a passion for it, like it all has a timeline. Like once you stop taking lessons in, grade school and a little bit in high school, you either go professional dancer or you don't.
Yeah.
There's few adult classes and stuff, but at that point too, my mom's like, you have to pay for it now. You're working, you're at a school. So yeah, it sounds like that's kind of where I ended up, was I felt myself pushing my body too much, and I wasn't listening to myself when I got into the drug scene, and just hit a wall and was like, I'm repeating this unhealthy lifestyle of making my identity a dancer to my identity as like a raver, I guess would be what I would call it before becoming a DJ.
I think what I'm hearing though is that there's this, because one of the things I talk about is survival patterns and like and the work that I do. And so we develop survival patterns to protect us from pain, right? And so giving you a little, like pulling you out of the jar a little bit, one of your survival patterns was to push beyond your limits, right? Even though you had an intuition. So this is another thing I talk about, is like our intuition is like our connection to the universe, let's say. And so, you had an intuition that dance was probably like not the path, right? But your instinct, which was like, this is my identity, and if I'm not this, the fear, which is the instinct, was like, who am I going to be? I'm nobody without dancing. So you dismissed the intuition and went with the instinct, right? Which was that I am a dancer and I can't lose this out of fear, right? Yeah. And so your survival pattern is to keep pushing too far. And so at somewhere along the lines, unconsciously, which is great, you recognize that pattern. Maybe you haven't just put it into those words yet, but you recognize this pattern of pushing yourself too far to hang on to a sense of I, right? And so it sounds like you're just like, no, like I'm going to align with my higher self, my capital I instead of the small I.
Yeah.
And said like, this is who I am, right? And that is when things began to flow, right? Where everything else up until that point was force.
For sure.
Yeah.
And that's really like, now my identity very much now is a DJ.
Sure.
Like it is my whole life. I've been doing music full time as my career for 3 years, starting next month. But this is the first time that I guess I've felt at home.
Yeah. And
I can push myself, but I know my limits. I know my potential. I'm very driven, and I know that I can do something big with this. Like I think as a dancer, I always knew in the back of my mind that I wasn't going to do it professionally, but I can see myself doing really big things with this. And this is the first time that I felt at home, and that it's not easy, but I don't know how to describe it. It is easy in a way.
Yes. This is what I try and articulate to people, because there's levels of consciousness, and before you get to like the critical level of 200, which is courage, which is I think where you got to when you made this realization, I need to step back from this drug thing, and because to look at like what's going on within. And so below the level of courage, life is difficult. Making money, getting ahead, it's all a grind, it's a hustle, it's fucking exhausting, right? But then when you start to tap into your true self and your higher self, then you shift at that critical level to flow, where things actually just happen so easily that you're almost like don't even know how to kind of accept it, right? And so this is the state of flow, right? And so when you say like, I can really feel, or I really know that I have potential here, it's because you're tapped into that flow state, right? And so it's like there's a sense of knowing that you're going to do big things in this space. Would you say that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I feel that from you.
I finally feel like I can confidently say that. Like so many different things that I got into in my life, even career-wise, I always enjoyed. I would never do anything that I didn't enjoy.
Yeah.
But this is the first time where I don't really have to think about it. I can kind of just do. And of course, there's lots of work behind the scenes. Like I can clock in 20 to 40 hours working on a set, and the set is an hour and a half. And that's the only thing that people see is the hour and a half in the club, not realizing how much work is put into it. But I don't know, the work doesn't really matter much to me anymore because it's worth it. It just, I'm so excited about these sets that putting 30 hours into, like a regular DJ would be like, that's insane, like that's way too much. But for me, I'm just so excited. I'll find like one good track that I'm like, this is going to go off so well. Everyone's going to love this. The crowd will go crazy. I love it. It sets a good vibe. And it just dominoes after that. I get so excited. I don't even realize it. It's like 2 a.m. and I've been going for 8 hours and kind of getting in that, like you said, like the meditative state and zoning out. Things just become really easy. And there's also lots of difficult moments as well.
Sure.
But it really is the first thing that I've come across that I'm just so excited to do that it doesn't feel like work.
Yeah.
I still say, I'm like, I haven't worked in 3 years. Like I work, but I don't also consider this work. It's my passion. It's something that I never thought I would be doing. Like there's DJs that tour the world still to this day that work 9 to 5s. Like I'm very, very grateful for Twitch and for my community there, because I would not be playing shows, festivals, big clubs right now if it wasn't for Twitch. If I never got on Twitch back then, I had no idea where that would put me. So it's all happens for a reason.
Well, I mean, it's all flowing, is what I really feel. And it's like, I heard something recently is like, if you could like if you could find a passion that made it feel like you never worked a day in your life, like wouldn't it be worth like figuring out what that is?
Yeah.
And so it's like you say you haven't worked in 3 years, and I'm like, I feel the same way. It's like like what I do, I don't feel is work. Like this to me isn't work. Like this is like, like having an amazing conversation and like getting to know like what really makes somebody tick and what they've been able to push past, what aha moments they had where they were able to, tap into their true potential. And so, like when you tap into what you really want to do, there is no work, and so it's probably worth putting the time and energy into figuring out or pursuing or setting the intention even to find out what that is, because then you'll never work a day in your life. And it's funny. I'm doing it today. I'm doing a webinar. It's called Freedom and Abundance. And I'm like, what am I going to talk about on this thing? And then I'm like, that's it. It's because what you have is freedom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And it's like, it came from like, finding what it is that like, that you do that doesn't feel like work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So let's wrap this thing up. And I think this is what I want you to just kind of see if you can come up with an answer for. It's like, what advice would you give to somebody when it comes to like pursuing a passion? Like, what is it?
I think just following your gut.
Yeah.
Going back to what I said, being so confused about what my identity should be, I knew that like that wasn't me. So many of those careers that I did and identities that I held, as much as I wanted them to be me, they weren't. So I wish I would have let them go faster and found everything happens for a reason. I am where I am because I went through those as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I think just trusting your gut and knowing what your potential is, but being realistic, it's taking on and doing these different jobs. And like we say, finding these passions that don't make us work. They're not for everyone. Mm-hmm. I never am off the clock. That's not a career for everyone, right? I can't put my phone down sometimes. So it's being realistic and understanding yourself and knowing your lifestyle and knowing what you want and your goals and being realistic if this is something for you. And I think if you can truly see that potential, then nothing should hold you back.
Yeah. I think also the other thing that I hear from your story is like, you got to kind of taste a little bit of like a bunch of different things. Like you're in dance, and you had to lean into, and now you can reflect back on like that wasn't going to be your thing, even though you believed in the time it was.
Yeah.
But now you can reflect back and then going into like whatever job you had in Toronto and just knowing, and so it's like the universe or God or whatever it is going to continue pushing you in the direction of your full potential. And sometimes if you don't listen to that intuition, then that energy will like trip you up.
And all of those will put you in line for where you need to be as well. Like I've learned so much for all of those careers and identities that did not work for me, but they led me exactly where I need to be.
Yeah. So I think it's like it's like an acceptance thing. It's like, there's a saying like, I would rather be going 100 miles an hour in the wrong direction than standing still. And the reason for that is because if you're going 100 miles an hour in the wrong direction, you'll find out what is the thing or the direction not to go.
And you'll always learn.
Yeah, that's
whether you learn like the worst thing or what you don't want or what you don't like there's never an opportunity that you're not learning. Like you are a student of the world. We all are. And that's how I think everybody should take every day and every career and every passion and every hobby that they fall into. Take something from that and take whatever you didn't like, be able to analyze that and understand that to a point of not putting yourself in that position again, but taking the good from that and figuring out where that can put you.
And don't let the fear like make you stand still. Right? Yeah. And so, that's what a lot of people, if you're listening to this and you're in a career that you hate or you're running a business that you don't like, and it's like, well, the fear will make you stay in that job or in that relationship, for example. And so it's like, if you're scared, then probably the exact thing that you should do is leap.
Yeah.
Because that's where the greatest growth is going to come.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Anyways, this has been a great conversation, Ali. I'm glad that you got tattooed by my wife and we made these connections because, I like really see big things happening for you. Thank you. Yeah. So where can people find you?
So I'm streaming on Twitch still 3 times a week. So all of my social media handles are Ali K DJ. So twitch.tv/AliKDJ, Instagram.com/AliKDJ, SoundCloud, Spotify, all the things. You can find me and my music. And
follow her and like let's watch this journey together, because it's interesting to see, like it's going to be interesting to watch like where you really take this thing. And so thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. This was awesome.
It was so good.
I feel like I had a therapy session. I like had so many good moments where I was like, this makes so much sense now.
Yeah, that's what happens when you just finally get to, tell your story and reflect, right?
So really great.
Yeah, awesome. If you got any value whatsoever from this conversation, I just encourage you to hit that subscribe button. And thanks again, Ali, and we'll see you guys next Sunday.